Okay, so I hope you have already taken some time to work on this problem by yourself. The question on the discussion board 4 is on the next page of the lecture notes as well. So if you haven't, I would suggest you to pause here and go ahead to think about this question by yourself before you continue to watch the video. Okay, so here, define type 1, type 2 errors in these settings. So type 1 error is your H null is actually true, but you made an error rejecting your H null. In this case, assume innocence is the null hypothesis and guilty is the alternative hypothesis. So the type 1 error is, in fact, that the suspects are innocent, but the jury reject H null. That means the jury finds the defendant guilty when in fact they are innocent. So in fact, your H null is true, they are innocent, but you made an error, you reject H null, the jury finds it guilty. So this is type 2 error. I'm sorry, type 1 error. Type 2 error, on the other hand, is when your H null is false. Actually, your defendants are not innocent, they are guilty, but the jury failed to find it out. They finds the defendant not guilty when in fact they are. So they fail to detect that they are guilty. They made an error by setting the criminals free. Finds the defendant not guilty when in fact they are guilty. I'm sorry for this terrible handwriting. Again, I couldn't write it very beautifully on this touch screen. So which one do you think is most severe? Send innocent people into jail, or you set criminals free? I think many of you will agree with me that this type 1 error is most severe, right? We'd rather set some criminals free because we couldn't really have enough evidence to support that he's guilty instead of putting innocent people into jail. So actually our justice system is designed to limit the type 1 error. I remember there was a famous case on The Simpsons. So he is a famous he was a famous football player, and he was accused for killing his ex-wife and her boyfriend. But the jury finally set him free because he can't put his hand into the glove they found on his scene. So we'd rather set criminals free instead of putting innocent people into jail. So type 1 error is a more severe case in this scenario. Sometimes it's not the same case. So let's take a look at the second example. I would encourage you to pause the video here and read the question and work on the problem by yourself before you resume the video. So in this question, let's define type 1 and type 2 errors in the context of the problem. So H now is patient does not have malaria. HA is patient has malaria. So type 1 error is we reject H now when it's true, right? In another word, we reject H now, which means we say the patient has malaria. We say the patient has malaria when the H now is actually true, which means the patient actually does not have the malaria. So when they not. This is type 1 error. Type 2 error is we do not reject H now when it's false. So H now is actually false, which means HA is correct. The patient does have malaria, but we do not reject H now. We are in favor of H now. We are saying the patient does not have malaria, but in fact they do. So we do not reject H now. We are in favor of H now. We say patient I should say patience, right? Patience. Have patience. Don't have malaria when they actually do. Now, in this scenario, which one do you think is more severe? Now, if you make a type 1 error, what will happen? If we make a type 1 error, we say the patient have malaria, but in fact they do not. So the patient will be treated for the disease that they do not have. They may experience some bad side effects, like it's showing here, vomiting. If you made a type 2 error, which means the patient do have a deadly disease, but you didn't detect that. You didn't treat the patient, and the patient does not have any treatment. You say the patient does not have malaria, then what's the worst case? The people die. So in this scenario, type 2 error is a more severe case. In our previous example, type 1 error is a more severe case. So it's not a universal answer that type 1 error is always going to be more severe or type 2 error is always going to be more severe. It all depends on the context of your question. So describe a real-world consequence of making each type of the error. If we make a type 1 error, the patient will be treated for a disease they do not have and may experience unpleasant side effect. But if you make a type 2 error, the patient will not be treated. For a deadly disease when they should be which could lead to more severe conditions or even death. Okay, this is the end of this video.